Good afternoon, everyone. Well, last few hours has been very insightful. We heard on how CFOs can manage the assets, the funds, the wealth, how they are the custodians. Then we also looked at how CFOs have been managing business transformations, how CFOs have been enabling corporations. This very thought reminded me, just 2 days back, my son asked me, Dad, what should I become? What should be the career I should be picking up? Should I? He gave me three choices. Should I become an engineer like you, like the way I am one of the technical persons in the room? Should I become a chartered accountant and become a finance professional? And he gave me a third option. Should I become a football player? He's very active in football, and it was 9:30, 10 in the night. I was extreme tired. I said, and we were watching some historic football match. I said, you become a football player. And then he immediately cut me down, saying that, I don't have a body like Ronaldo. So I have two choices for you now. It's either an engineer or a chartered accountant. And I couldn't answer. I said to him, you can pick up what you like. But, having such sessions like today, I feel like, giving children exposure to such sessions where only, not only they see what's happening, what industry, panelists and experts like you are bringing on the table, and also take a very measured decisions on their liking. So such forums are very useful according to me. Now, coming to the topic, now we are talking about the guardians from a compliance perspective, from a risk perspective. It's like the CFO is like the Rahul Dravid of cricket, like the wall, right? Everything stops at the CFO. You have a risk, you have business decisions, you have compliances. And yesterday I was in Mumbai. I was called by one of the firms where they said they've got 200 directors, and it's a large firm, 200 directors, and one of the challenges was how do I ensure that my related party reporting is done. I want to set up a system that builds a related party reporting, and my 200 directors, their relatives, key management persons are able to report from a risk and compliance perspective. And this lady was a general manager risk reporting into the CFO's office. So the question came in the same, in terms of a guardian, how your relationship with the founders, with the directors are there. The biggest challenge for her as a compliance officer was that, how does the information reach me? How do I ensure that the directors are able to share the information with me on a timely basis and it's accurate? How do I, it's a large pool, maybe about 1,500 related parties. How do I do that? That becomes again one of the very important compliance and risk aspect, and that also resonated with me, to me when we were talking about this subject. So as a guardian of risk compliance, I have a few questions for the panelists, esteemed panelists. That the first question is maybe Sureshji, if I could pass this question to you. And Tata is a very respected brand. It's a very respected group. And I admire it as well. I have a lot of positive experience from Tata. One of the questions that comes to mind is, how do I differentiate between a corporate integrity and an individual integrity? And this also question comes because India is a growing market. There are a lot of investors putting in money. A lot of companies are, registering. We have got, multiple IPOs coming in. How, and we have got very recent incidents as well in the market, not so pleasant. What's your opinion, thought process about, corporate integrity versus individual integrity?
Yeah, to me, I come from Tata BlueScope. It's a combination of Tata's, well known in India. BlueScope is an organization, steel company, biggest steel company in Australia. So both these are legendary companies having over 100 years of business and strong business with a great reputation. So it all matters around that word called reputation. How does that happen? It is about the ethics and the culture that they've built over time in terms of not compromising on ethical values and which they imbibe in all their practices, starting from the managing director or the board of directors, coming across all the employees as well as the business practices that we do. So to me, corporate ethics is around all of this, where you build that trust over time by following things which are right. And many times, we nowadays say, there right and wrong. Definitely there's a right and wrong. There is also a gray, but definitely there are certain fundamental principles which are there, which are being followed. So these companies, when they talk about, ethical values and other things, they stick to it over a period of time. Whether it's like, if you look at laws, for us, it is a given. And in fact, as a CFO, for me to join the company and to be part of the team is easier actually in a company like ours, where the underlying license to operate is to follow the rules and regulations as is, as per law, the spirit of the law, rather than just the word of the law. Okay. So when it comes to other things, how do I deal with various people with respect, with, integrity? The way I interact with my people within the organization, the language that I speak, the kind of diversity that we promote so that we are respectful to each other. I think all of this is what builds the organization when you talk of the corporate ethics and other things. When it comes to the personal thing, it's the personal values that a person brings into the table, onto the table. The thing is, birds of the same feather flock together in a way. So organization creates a culture, and when they want to create the culture, they bring in people with that kind of aptitude, with that kind of thinking, and the kind of the learnings, the kind of education that they give, the kind of practices they follow. Even if you are prone to something else, you will kind of change. You will understand why they are doing it. And it's about reputation is like a jewel, right? Crown jewel that once it's lost, it's gone. But if you keep it, it is strong. People will trust you. So for us, like I was also working for AstraZeneca, pharmaceutical company. There again, the thing is about following the law, regulatory things to the core. So what happens then is when I go to if something goes wrong, see, still something can go wrong. So when I go there to the officer, he respects me because he knows my systems, processes, my culture, my company does not want it to happen, but it has happened. So they take it more leniently. So it's that. And as an individual for me, yes, because of that culture, I also change. But I just want to have a challenge and leave it at that. Like, corporate says that no giving, bribes are not to be given. So when I go to the tax officer, I don't give bribes. I go out, if the policeman asks for the company something, I don't. But how many of us, when we go to a registration of land, how many of us just give the stamp duty and come? It's just a question.
Interesting.
Just to add what you were saying, I guess in one line, if I want to kind of really sum it up, personal integrity we generally know is as doing right when no one is looking at it. And the way I define corporate integrity, it is like no one has to look at it when you're doing something. Your processes, your culture, your system will take care of that. So maybe if I really kind of differentiate between the two,
can I read it like the corporate integrity has to be the top down from the senior management top level to percolating in down, and personal integrity is influenced by your own values system, right? Um, there, and you interestingly mentioned about a point: birds of same feather flock together. Well, I'm sometimes it's a very sensitive topic I'm talking about. Please don't get offended by this. We had a very recent a Gensol issue in the market, and post reading that, we realized that there was a history of one CFO leaving, other CFO coming, that CFO also leaving. Right? And there are also multiple investors, large investors coming and putting money on the table. How do we avoid such scenarios? One is from a whistleblower. And anyone can answer that question. Can a CFO become a whistleblower rather than just stepping down? Because stepping down is the most easiest part, because I am not fitting into the flock of birds I'm going with. It's a different bird. But how do I protect the rights of the investor? How I can become a whistleblower? Is it difficult? Is it risky? Anyone can answer that question.
The way I look at it, right? If the market is looking at you, a CFO, HCXO movements are well noticed by everyone, right? They're very, very, especially the big ones. When you see that someone is stepping down from a good position, it's much obvious that there is some tremors around. There is some problem around. While I'm not saying that CFO is not supposed to, do whistleblowing and all that stuff, but he's indirectly passing a subtle message that there is a problem. And wherever the new CXO or the new CFO is stepping in, he's possibly taking into cognizant all of it, because you study a company very, very well when you are actually heading that position. You cannot ignore it. And if you are ignoring it, that means there is some problem with you. So there has been positions where you have to step down and put your foot down on integrity issues. And I have done it in the past. And I think it steps from your personal integrity more than a corporate integrity. Corporate integrity is given. But many times you are the decision maker, right? You are on the forefront of making decisions. That time it's your vibes and your gut feel and your thing is, which will dominate over everything else. And that's the reason, the way Kishore you put it, I think corporate is down. Top down is important because every people are not like you. Every people will not be like you. So you need some mentor to drain it down your organizational values and systems. But it's end of the day, it's your own personal thing which will carry on the floor. So I think both are really, really very important. That is where I put it.
I guess one of the point that you were mentioning, can CFO be a whistleblower? I guess that goes with the culture or the corporate integrity as well, to an extent. If I can link up to that, if as a CFO, if you have access to most of the information in the company, and if you really see that there is a requirement of whistleblower or whistleblowing, I guess a CFO should do that, to be honest. And somewhere the company integrity that we talked about, the corporate integrity we talk about, empowers that. Because if my processes, my culture is such that if I'm being a whistleblower and I've been taken care of without kind of any adverse impact, I guess that is what most important is. And one of the things that CFO has to really take that into a leap of faith, that my company or a corporate would kind of support me. And they are part of some of the important forums. If you really look at the board meetings, the audit committees, and they deal with the regulators and so on and so forth. They are kind of a messenger, in front of various forums that we talk about. And if they don't feel it right and they are not in a position or empowered enough to whistleblower, I guess then there is somewhere a weakness in the entire process of the company. That's what my understanding is all about.
I think CFO being a whistleblower, it's easy. But most of the times the CFO is involved in what's already happened. So if he's going to blow it up, then he's blowing himself. Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. Yeah. But at the same time, as she said rightly, that there are various other bodies which are also have to do these things, and they have a responsibility to do it. So if you are very clear that what you're standing up for is going to help everybody and doesn't burn you up, probably you can do it. Otherwise, it's a discretionary thing that you need to take as a person. But definitely, when you're stepping down, you're sending a clear message. But again, to your point of organization, if it's a very good organization like Tata or BlueScope, we have that option, because that whistleblower policy is so good that integrity is kept when you whistleblow, and it's taken care of very well. So I think when such a good company is there, probably the CFO need not step down also. That thing won't arise. It arises many times in a startup company where they are being pushed for results. Okay, and then the startup, that you need to also look at it from that perspective, because they are living on the edge, and the CFO also lives on the edge with them. And so sometimes you take calls which gets unnoticed. Sometimes you take a call which can sweep you off. So we can't judge it. That's what I would say.
That thank you so much for the details, and that takes me to the next question, which is related. One is we talked about the integrity part. Now, the corporate governance drives the integrity. It's a fabric. It's a fabric of processes, policies, practices, and we see, CFO is a guardian. CFO has to put a right execution approach to ensure, the corporate risk is minimized, the investors' wealth is protected, and the compliances are met through. What you think a CFO should execute? What should be the role of a CFO in putting up the right process and policies in place? What role he or she should be playing? Anyone? Maybe Manish, you want to take that?
So I guess the point has been, I guess most of these things we have been covering, but really talking about CFO in implementing, these policies. I guess the CFO's responsibility is not merely reporting to a CEO, to be honest, right? They report to the board, they report to audit committee, and they have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that whatever the corporate governance that we are talking about is not only implemented in the form but in the spirit as well. And that's the most important one when we talk about, so as I was talking about RPT, the related party disclosures that we do, or any kind of transactions that are a bit of a gray area and so on and so forth, right? If that doesn't get reported, or the systems or the processes are not that solid enough, or the implementations has not been done at the right spirit, I guess it will lose the purpose, the purpose for which these policies, procedures, or the corporate integrity has been established, right? So that's one element to it. The other element is besides being financial reporting, right? I guess in today's world, the CFO is a custodian of corporate governance, right? Whether we talk about any of the policies that is getting implemented, I guess CFOs becomes an important element in providing an inputs, and secondly in kind of implementation that. So I guess it becomes very, very important for a CFO to understand, implement, and take a control of the policy as well when we are doing about it.
Anyone like to add to this?
So while policy making, I would say, is easy, right? Executing it is the most important thing. And people on the ground, the lowest person on the operation floor, the shop floor, needs to know what is this policy and how does it affect him as an employee. Because if they don't follow it, whatever said, done, and said and do, it will sit in the boardroom, which will not help each one of us. So what is most important is drafting the policy and training our each and every employee in the organization to know what that policy is about. And they are well aware of how to execute it in tough situations. I think this is a very, very important role which will complete the full cycle of what the intention of drafting the policy is. Correct? Many times there is a gap between the intention of a policy and the way the people interpret the policy. So those training sessions, those town halls, those are the good forums to at least reveal few policies quarterly, half yearly, whenever you'll have the times as part of inductions. So these are the quick things which everyone should do. Compliance does not sit only with the CFO. Compliance sits with each and every officer in the company. That is what we should, ensure that that is well taken care of.
I agree with her. Policies are made, okay, but again, policies are top down. It's coming with a meaning. So if people understand why the policy is there, I think they will more or less, abide by it and they'll follow it. It's only when you push it down their throat without telling them why we are doing what we are doing. It's even to do with the law. It's the same. It's the intent of the spirit of the law, not the word of the law. So if you are able to explain that to people, then they will understand it and they will follow it. And it's also about telling them how important it is for the organization and also for protecting themselves. Many a times, a lot of policies, that's what I tell people. It's not just about protecting the organization, it also protects you. If you don't follow it or if you follow it, this is how it helps you or it doesn't help you. So for us, it's about communicating it to the people, ensuring that they understand it in the right perspective. But again, there's an example in the pharma industry. The whole thing is about, entertaining doctors. So a lot of companies came very hard on that, saying we'll not do this, we'll not do that. But the end of the thing is, doctor is your customer. So you invite him for a conference. And then if you tell him no, you will take him to a Saravana Bhavan. Definitely it's not on here. So there is a thing, a person will say, if the field person thinks, no, my company is saying I can only spend so much, I would rather not take him to that place. So there is a discretion also that the people have to, and that is the training that we need to give. It's about them knowing why we are doing what we are doing. So that's very critical in anything that we do, I think, When it comes to law also, I've got, a lot of times when you go to the senior lawyers, you learn that. They say, when you interpret something, first they say, go to the preamble. Why the law was there. And once you understand it, you'll know the spirit of the law and you will be 99% right in the interpretation. So that is very critical in everything that we do.
My next question is for Supriya, because we discussed in the morning. AVA provides advisory to the finance function for risk, compliance, and technology transformation. Now we see the policies keep on changing. We saw a SEBI disclosure for the related party update coming in the last few months. MCA guidelines changing, each year. What would you advise would be the best practices as a practitioner, Supriya, that it could be tools, it could be other processes, the community should be looking at to adopt these continuous changes?
So I'm looking at some data facts here because we all love data. So this is a 1-year-old data, but I think this will be a good relevation of how many acts we all look at. In India, the number of acts we all are governed by are 1536 plus. Okay, the number of compliances which the company has to do is 69,000 plus. The number of filings we all do in some form or the other are more than 6,700. Now this is the data which is a 1-year-old. Now it's not reduced, that's for sure, everyone will agree with me. It's increased day by day. Now how do you expect someone to track this methodically across different plants, different warehouses, different shops across India you may have manually? And the updates, thanks to all the GST updates, thanks to all the updates which keep on coming, without a proper system in place. There are solutions. I mean, I just want to highlight to you, there are solutions which track all this on a click of a button across India. If there are state-wise compliances, if there are state-wise laws, it tracks everything on an application, and you get regular updates on whatever is changed across any of the acts. Within 48 hours, you get a notification that it has changed. You'll get an alert and a pop-up that this has changed, go and have a look, and you're supposed to change this. But with a caveat, I want to say, all these softwares are good, but they need all to be maintained well. You can't expect the software to, capture your data unless someone puts it into the software religiously. So this is where it goes a little bit tricky. So there are systems in place. Few years before I was handling digital transformation, I mean, some companies are yet doing it manually. When I speak to corporates, when I speak to CFOs, they're yet not automated. And I say there is a golden opportunity, because this is just going to get complicated year by year for each one of us. It's not going to reduce. We know that. So do we spend our energy and time in just tracking some compliances, or will be best use of technology? Is a question I want to leave upon. Every business forum I go, we all talk about business transformation. We all talk about digital transformation. Are we really adapting in true sense? I would just like to reflect, and leave the question there. There's really lots to do, and there's really a lot of technology available. So we just want to make good use of it. Is my thing which I've seen. So this is the real fact, and I would encourage you all to look into it if you have not so far.
Suresh, you wanted to add to this?
I think, many times people think as CFOs, especially if you are constrained for money, you think, why people are there to track it, but just don't do that. It's an investment that you're making not only for yourself, your reputation, for the company's reputation, because anything goes wrong, finally, everybody suffers. And the first one to suffer is the CFO. So take it as an investment, ensure that you are able to convince your directors or whoever it may be that this is the investment that needs to be done. Today, you just cannot do without that. Because I can tell you, it's just not about you complying, it's also about your suppliers complying. Recently, BIS has come up with standards where when you import, aluminum ingots, that needs to be, kind of BIS standard has to be applied. Like we were raising it up much beforehand, but the suppliers were not listening, saying that it's not on. But at the end, when it comes to the customs port, it's held up. Then you scramble. So that's a good learning in my organization. I said, see, we've been telling this. So finally, I had to write very strong notes around that and make it happen. It's just not about your compliance. It's also about compliance of your suppliers or whoever, which can impact your operations and business. So for us, if I don't have zinc and aluminum, then I'm stuck. My whole plant cannot function. So it's not just about our compliances, it's about others to enable our business. So please invest. That's what I'd say.
We are out of time, but Kanishka, just one question, maybe I can throw it across the board to the one last question, please. I have a few questions, but because we are out of time, and this can be answered by anyone in the audience as well. Do you think organizations need to reward, acknowledge, or punish compliance, non-compliance towards the policies?
Tata, we are having already system. Reward system is there. Whomsoever is complying to these policies, so that particular circular will be there, means notification would be there throughout the organization. So that policy is there with the Tata. Hope other companies would be there.
Anyone else want to answer this?
I completely agree. There should be a process of rewarding to the people who are completely compliant. But when you look at the non-compliances, that never occurs because of the intentional thing. It definitely generally occurs because people are not aware of it. So as like Supriya already mentioned, it's more about the training to the last level of the people so that they can understand the consequences and everyone can move forward for more compliant thing. All employees compliant going forward. So there should not be a process of punishment, but should be a proper training mechanism for the awareness of the compliances.
Thank you so much. Yes. Thanks for all the esteemed panelists. I will ask Anisha to take it next. Thank you so much.